everyone's trying to predict the absolute top based off days, months, weeks, and also price. However, it's best not to do that. It's best to just kind of have a plan, but not in a literal term. So we're going to talk about the next 60 odd days and how November, December could shape what could happen with Bitcoin, alt season, which is actually green right now, which is mental, and also what will happen if it doesn't happen and materialize. And there's no hype, no crystal balls here, but just levels, rules, and more importantly, rotation signals. In my viewpoint, the end is pretty close because we are rotating. That is quite a cycle trait. But yeah, if you enjoy this sort of stuff, slap a like on it and subscribe, please. Now, some news context. Obviously, we had some data. Data is coming and it's been mental the last few days. And obviously, yesterday there was price producer kind of inflation drops, and actually the consensus was to be 0.3, actually came in at 0.1. There's a lot of these and they all came down pretty revised. And you can see here, producer prices in the US fell quite a lot. It's the first decline in 4 months. And that could be interesting longer term in terms of this situation, what would you have today? So today we have CPI and the consensus is 2.9%. And that could mean a couple of things in terms of the information which I talked about on yesterday's video. The knock-on effect of what's going to happen with rate cuts, and we probably are baked in, as I say, at 25 basis points and maybe even potential wiggle room for higher, potentially if certain things go in a certain way, obviously with data. So we've got to look at that. The one thing that is for sure that we need to talk about is how aggressive and how powerful the world of Bitcoin ETFs have been over the last couple of weeks. As you can see, it's been pretty good. Even in a rough period, we are still holding pretty level. So we've had a couple of downward days and a couple of up days, but on par, pretty level, even though the price has retraced 13%, which is really, really interesting. The main factor and the main caveat is today, what will CPI do? Is it going to be an initiation to a next leg up, or is it going to be a bit of a rumble in the jungle? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, in terms of the technical analysis, we need to look at a couple of things. We've talked about this before. The next couple of months is going to basically tell us what's going to happen. Now, naturally, keyword, naturally, Q4 is relatively strong for financial markets. That is hugely important. And that's a thing. News always lands and it doesn't always decide the trades or the outcome of the investment. But what it does happen, it clusters emotions. If people have big emotions about Q4 in general, it's going to be pretty bullish on the par just due to that subconscious nature. We've got to look at the fact of where the rotation is in terms of altcoins. We've got to look at the fact of where Bitcoin is in terms of price, $114,000 from the lows of $15,000. So that's going to be really, really interesting where we go. If this is the one last big leg up, or we have a different dynamic of a cycle where it doesn't have massive, massive, horrible, ugly corrections, but it actually stabilizes pretty well, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic when you talk about the scarcity factor of what Bitcoin is, and it potentially tied to the world of the S&P, and what could mean at the long-term effect of, is it going to breed a recession? What's gold going to do? Is Bitcoin going to hold up more like gold as a harder asset, so to speak? So there's so many unanswered questions. By the way, I mentioned in that little segment alt season. At the end of the day, let's talk about this, because this is where my bread and butter was back in the day of like, alt season's important. We don't get that many nowadays, and I rumble a couple of feathers. There's a lot of people talking about the same view I've had for probably over a year now, that we're going to be few and far between. The reason why this is now at 76, let me explain. This is what this means. We're up at these levels. We are in an alt season, technically of a very lagging indicator, right? Now, the situation is very much the obvious. Big things are moving. Ethereum, XRP, Solana, BNB, random examples, right? They're all moving. A couple of other things are moving, but not crazy. I mentioned a coin yesterday that went aggressively crazy in terms of a GigaChad mood of 100 million gazillion percent in a matter of 24 hours, right? Now, the situation is very, very clear. Alt season is probably going to be very, very interesting this time around, because I don't think it's going to spill all the way down the food chain. That's my personal thoughts, because there's too many coins, right? Now, when we talk about why this indicator is very, very interesting and very also wishy-washy, the situation is we have got all these coins outperforming Bitcoin currently. We still have coins that are not outperforming it, such, they're quite obviously biggish coins in there as well. Aave, for example, you got Ton, you got Pepe, ICP is quite a big one, even XMR. But the obvious in the room is the big boys on that left-hand side of the screen are pretty much dominating, and that is why we're getting that indication. But if I ask every single one of you right now in the comment section, what altcoin has performed well for you, are you happy? You're probably not happy yet, even though that is telling us alt season, which is telling me that the indication is that we are getting close to the end. Even if we go mental, even if we go crazy, I still think we're not going to get those 10 to 15 to 20 to 50 to 100 X's from now. That is what people want from 2017 or even 2021. Got to remember, Solana's already done 37 X's cycle, right? Just an example. Ethereum's done a good number of X's. BNB's done pretty well considering its turmoil. Get the idea? So just be mindful of throwing all your eggs in the basket. Even if there is a flurry, you may not expect to get big ass returns like the past, which is unfortunate. So I want to keep it brief with the world of Bitcoin. If I'm looking at my indications, obviously we've got a hidden bullish divergence of the weekly time frame, which could be of interest on the EMA 21. And if we are going to neutralize this whole area and go, it could be interesting. Now, for me, if you know this and if you are on my Patreon, there's a link below, by the way, if you want to get in. By the way, let me just showcase this. It's all there. It's videos, it's a Discord, it's everything. It's also exit plan central very, very soon because I will be talking a lot more about them. Now, exit plans, exit plans, exit plans. The thing is, right, and I've just kind of alluded to it in my passionate rant about altcoins and insert other asset here. People will come to the market and will ask questions about something that is already taken off. In my viewpoint, if your time horizon is I want to hold Bitcoin for the next 20 years, just buy whenever and just DCA over time. That's fine. But if you've been in, like myself, at the lows, and I've been in since 2016, you should be using that profit to capitalize in the future as well. So for me, this is why I have this area mapped out where I will be taking some money off the table. Now, I've already taken money off the table in the summer because I thought at 100 and whatever K, 114, 15K, roughly these sort of levels back in those summer times, I was like, I want to get out of this because this is pretty bloody crazy. I think it was actually May time I was taking money off at, $110,000 because the birth of my daughter, and I was walking away for a little bit to sort of survive and thought, right, I'll take some money off the table. Nothing wrong with taking 10, 20% off, but we could go much higher here. The idea is, with a plan, is to understand the mental side of it. What if it doesn't run forever? What if it pulls back? What if you're never going to see profit again? At the end of the day, I'm in massive profit here. I have a DCA account on my Patreon as well, and I will feature it on this channel as well. You will see that I'm in profit from buying Bitcoin over a period of a year. It's doing pretty well. It's quite nice. And I'm hoping to manipulate that even more with adding Solana in there and obviously other things such as Chainlink. The situation we have is greedy people will come to the market, I think, and will probably push it a little bit higher. And that's where it gets interesting. Now, it may not happen with Bitcoin, but it may well happen with the likes of Ethereum. It may well happen with the likes of, say, Chainlink as a random example. It may well happen with the likes of Solana. We are looking towards the end rotation. And this is why these next 60 odd days, when we're looking at, actually tell you what we'll look at. We'll look at the total market cap because this is where it's going to get very, very interesting. This is kind of where we are. And I already have this area of the 13th of October marked out. But obviously, as I've alluded to it, we can go much deeper than that because we need to look at the next 60 days. If we're looking at the weekly time frame, and even if we just do that, give or take around there, we're talking roughly remembrance area, right? The 11th of the 11th, just below that. So early November is going to be a very, very interesting point to see where we are with this market. Now, obviously, you can see on the chart here, this is starting to look very interesting. Obviously, this is a bit of a wishy-washy kind of chart anyways because of obviously emissions. But let's talk about the obvious in the room, right? Let's go on to the world of BTC. Because when we talk about the total slash Bitcoin, this is giving us an indication of alt season. This is why altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. This is where we are. We have changed character. We've changed structure. We've found a low here. We did it here. It faked out. We then went even lower. The situation is we are looking, in my viewpoint, much stronger at this point because we're trickling up slowly. We're not throwing the baby out the bathwater. And obviously, yes, I do have profit zone up here because I will be getting a bit twitchy at that point because probably more often than not, your altcoins would have ran, which is hugely important. So profit in the bank doesn't really care if you nailed the exact top. It cares if you've made money and you are obviously profitable because with structure, you can get in and out at whatever points. Too many people, in my viewpoint, leave it to run for too much in that viewpoint overall. And when we start talking about, obviously, other bits and pieces, stable currency dominance, we are still chugging along nicely. We may well be going into this zone, which is what I highlighted at one of my Patreon videos not too long ago. We have to get below this area, which is where we failed before in the past, right? So the next 60 days is going to be very, very important. Are we going to go, woof, existing liquidity going to come in? Is retail going to come back in? What price does, say, Cardano, your Solana, your Ethereums, whatever, insert coin here, has to be to get people back? Likewise with Bitcoin, what price does Bitcoin have to be to change the narrative here massively and people go, wow, I don't want Bitcoin at the minute, I want that. And I'm talking about existing Bitcoiners here, maxis, getting itchy, twitchy feet, wanting to make money and jumping ship. That will happen, but I don't know when. That's the situation. My viewpoint on that one as well, as a bit of a plan, I think a lot of people personally are attached to their Bitcoin. That could be a problem. So mindful of that. So let's talk about what I'm going to be doing. As I've alluded to it, I will be selling part of my Bitcoin up here because why not? I've been holding for, I positional trade, so to speak. I buy low, I sell high, right? And I use the cycles. As I say, I use the dominance charts to help me. With that though, Bitcoin for me is like 95% of my overall portfolio. It really is. And I will only add at the lows from this point. That's kind of obvious. And I want to scale out of a position. And even though I will hold some Bitcoin longer term, as I've alluded to it, I will be using this as a price guide, but I will also be using the likes of the currency dominances. So such as the stable currency dominances, the total 3/BTC is going to be very, very important to the market hype overall. But more importantly, other/BTC and stuff. These need to carry on chugging because that will give you that euphoric feeling and things are happening. More often than not, where is Bitcoin dominance going? Is it going to get lower, lower, lower? But ultimately, I will be making money because I would have hopefully got more interest in the market and the momentum is there. Bitcoin is not realistically going to go down as altcoins fly, is it? It's probably going to be stable or continue going up because the interest is building and building and building. So that's my kind of plan. This exchange, by the way, is open for the UK. If you want to trade futures, it's also open. There's 20% back on fees and a huge welcome bonus at the minute. Jump in. I also want to talk briefly about psychology. Sorry. Because every Q4, right, the market sells a different story, whether it's super cycles, lengthening cycles, whatever it may be. And I'm already hearing mutterings of that. I'm already hearing mutterings. We're never going to have a bear market ever again. We're never going to correct. The parabolic slope is a bit of an issue, right? And you do not want to get in a situation where you fall into the narrative of not paying yourself. The plan is simple: to take profit. Simple as that, right? Because at the end of the day, you're here to make money. At some point, you are an investor, bottom line. Liquidity models is like a guide. It's not gospel. If the price breaks or if something goes wrong, you need to take action on that. Models are designed to be broken, realistically, right? So the moment I hear the word super cycle or, you know, your nana's going to start phoning you and asking you what Ethereum is, it's probably the chance to check your exit and go, I should probably take something off the table. Certainly if you start putting your bloody screenshots in your group chats. So let me know, are you going to be taking profit in this potential bedlam area if it all materializes? I will be doing another video at some point about my negative side of it. What will I do if it fails, so to speak, because I didn't really talk about that much today. But more importantly, let me know what you think. Also, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.